I never signed that loan. I told the agent, my voice trembling, eyes locked on the neat. Perfect version of my signature, scrawled across a $250,000 promissory note. It looked identical to mine, every loop, every curve, but I knew it wasn't. Someone forged it, I said again. Slower this time, as if repetition could somehow make it less absurd, less horrifying. The FBI agent leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. You're telling us, he said carefully, that someone took out a $250,000 loan in your name, and you know who did it? I nodded, my throat dry as chalk. Yes, I whispered. My brother. 3 months earlier, my life had been ordinary. I worked at a mid-sized architecture firm in Seattle, lived in a rented townhouse near Green Lake, and kept to myself. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. My brother, Dylan, was the opposite, brilliant but reckless. He'd all fill a ruin, sell anything. But behind the charisma was chaos, gambling, bad investments, and a mountain of debt he never stopped adding to. I'd bailed him out twice before, and both times I told myself it was the last. Blood or not, I was done being his safety net. When the first call came from the bank, I thought it was a scam. The woman on the line, Jessica from Evergreen Credit, said she was confirming payment details for my new business loan. I laughed, literally laughed, because it was ridiculous. Loan. There was a pause. Papers shuffled on her end. Then she asked for my social security number to verify. I hung up. 2 days later, I got a letter reel. Physical mail from Evip, congratulating the successful approval of a $250,000 small business loan for Westridge Renovations, LLC. My name was listed as the primary borrower. My stomach twisted as I read the words again and again, half expecting them to rearrange into Somtan. There was even a copy of the promissory note inside, with my digital signature neatly printed at the bottom. I called Dylan. Hey, man, he answered, voice upbeat and casual. I could hear music in the background, maybe a bar. What's up? I didn't ease into it. Did you take out a loan in my name? A pause, then a short, nervous laugh. What? No. Voyez le premier. Do that. You tell me. I snapped. Because Evergreen Financial says I borrowed $250,000 for a company that doesn't exist. Bro, he said. Tone shifting fast, I swear. I have no idea what you're talking about. Dylan, I exhaled hard through my nose, gripping the phone tighter. I'm not playing this time. This isn't some late bill or casino. Tab, this is federal fraud. His voice softened. Look, I can come over, okay? We'll talk about it, but he didn't come. He stopped answering my calls after that. Over the next week, the situation snowballed. My credit score dropped 60 points overnight. Debt collectors began calling, asking about repayment schedules. My bank froze of. My accounts, because of suspicious transactions, every minute felt like walking through a fog of disbelief. This couldn't actually be happening. Not like this. When I finally went to Evergreen's downtown office, they treated me like a criminal. The branch manager, a balding man named Collins, insisted everything had been verified. Driver's license scan, SSN, even video. Identification through a third-party platform. It's all here, he said, sliding a tablet across the table. And there it was, a grainy clip of me, or someone who looked just like me, sitting in front of a webcam, reciting the security oath. The resemblance was uncanny. Some Dakar. Seems from when I fell off my bike as a kid. Only I hadn't done it. Première feltique. Ta torcir. Not me, I said quietly. That's not me. Collins just frowned. Sir, I understand this is stressful, but if you're alleging identity theft, we'll need to involve law enforcement. That's how I ended up in a grey room with the FBI 2 weeks later. Agent Rivera was calm, methodical, and had that practiced neutrality that made it impossible to tell what he was thinking. Walk us through everything from the start, he said. So I did every call, every document, every conversation with Dylan. When I finished, he leaned back and folded his hands. You said your brother has a history of financial issues? Yes, I said. He's made bad decisions, but nothing like this, nothing criminal. Rivera nodded slowly. Family makes things complicated, but we've seen this before. Forgery, identity theft, even impersonation through deepfake video. The tech's good now to good. He slid a folder across the table. We'll need every document you have. Bank statements, emails, texts, anything that links him to the application. Over the next few days, I became an unwilling detective. I scoured my phone, my laptop, even old cloud backups. What I found made my blood run cold. There were emails from me to Evergreen's loan department, sent from a spoofed address, one character off from mine. Attached were scans of my passport, my tax documents, even an old utility bill. All real, all stolen. The metadata on the files pointed to an IP address traced back to Portland where Dylan had recently moved. I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at his last text to me. Months before this, all started. Asterisk, you'll thank me one day. Asterisk, when I handed over the evidence to Rivera, he didn't say much. Just nodded, tight-lipped. This helps, he said. This helps a lot. Weeks passed. Silence. Then, one morning, a call. This is Special Agent Rivera. We've located your brother. My heart lurched. Where? He's in custody, Rivera said. And you might want to come down here. I drove for 2 hours to the Portland field office, my thoughts ricocheting between fury and dread. When I finally saw him, sitting in that interview room, hands cuffed, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, he smiled. Actually smiled. Hey, big bro, he said softly, as if we were catching up over coffee. Guess you found out. I stared at him, words choking in my throat. Why? Dylan. Why would you do this to me? He shrugged, almost wistful. You wouldn't understand. I was going to fix everything. I just needed a little time. You forged my signature. You stole from me. I borrowed, he said. I was gonna pay it back. It was an investment, man. You think I wanted this? Rivera stood silently in the corner, watching us. I leaned across the table, my voice shaking. You ruined my life. Do you have any idea what that's like? He looked at me for a long moment, then whispered, yeah, I do. That's when I realized he wasn't just sorry, he was broken, and somehow that made it worse. The FBI built their case, but for me, there was no victory in it. The loan was flagged as fraud, my credit began to recover, and my name was cleared legally. But family, that doesn't clear so easily. Even now, months later, I can still hear his voice in my head, that calm, hollow tone. You'll thank me one day, and sometimes God help me. I wonder if he actually believed it. The first night after Dylan's arrest, I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room, lights off, laptop open, the cursor blinking on an empty email draft addressed to him. I kept type question, accusation, apologie non de right. What do you say to your own brother after he's forged your name? For a $250,000 loan. Asterisk, I hate you, asterisk, felt too simple. Asterisk, I forgive you, asterisk, felt impossible. Outside, the rain drummed against the windows in slow, unbroken rhythm. Seattle, rain always made me think clearer, but not that night. The silence inside the house was so complete I could hear the hum of the refrigerator, the creak of the floorboards when I shifted my weight. Every sound felt amplified, like the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for me to decide what came next. Around night, me fond beza number eyes. Well answered, et toi arrivera. Sorry to call so late, he said, his voice as calm as ever. I wanted to let you know Dylan's being transferred tomorrow. Federal holding facility in Tacoma. I swallowed hard. Is he saying anything? Rivera hesitated. That part of me, the older brother, who'd once promised to always protect him. But maybe some people don't need protection. Maybe they need to face what they've built. Later that week, Rivera called again. We dug into Dylan's story, he said. The name, Marco, checks out. Sort of. We found traces of a similar fraud operation tied to offshore accounts and crypto transfers. Looks like your brother might have been a small piece in a larger scheme. I swallowed hard. So he wasn't lying. Not entirely, Rivera said, but he still committed fraud. The others covered their tracks better. We're trying to find them. And Dylan, he'll probably get a reduced sentence if he cooperates. But it's complicated. Complicated. That word seemed to hang over everything now. Family, justice, forgiveness, all tangled together. That night, I sat back down at my laptop. This time, I didn't delete the email. I wrote one simple line, greater than you wanted me to understand. I think I finally do. Then I hit send, but even after that, I didn't feel closure. Only the faint, unsettling thought that maybe this story wasn't finished. Not for me. Not for him, and not for whoever Marco really was. 2 weeks passed before I heard anything new. The FBI stayed in touch, though most of what Rivera told me was vague. We're still pursuing leads. The financial trails complex. These cases take time. It was bureaucratic language. The kind that tried to sound reassuring, but really meant asterisk, we're lost. In the mess. Then, on a grey Thursday morning, Rivera called again. His voice had a different weight this time. We found something, he said. You should come in. At the Seattle field office, Rivera led me down a quiet hallway and into a small conference room. On the table was a folder, thick with printed documents and photographs. Everything I'm about to show you is confidential, he said. Be it. Given your involvement and what your brothers said, you deserve to see it. Inside the folder were wire transfers, email threads, and offshore account logs. Every page screamed deception. But one line caught my eye, a transfer of $47,000 from a shell company called *** Orion, trade LTID *** to AUS account, registered under my * own name **. I blinked. The hell is this? That's what we'd like to know, Rivera said. This account was created 6 months ago. Using your social and a duplicate ID, funds from multiple fraudulent loans, including Dylan's, were routed through it. As far as the paper trail's concerned, you're not just a victim. You're a participant. My stomach turned. That's impossible. I didn't open anything. Rivera's expression didn't change, but his eyes softened. I believe you. But whoever did this, they've gone to extreme lengths to make you look complicit. I sank into the chair, trying to breathe. The room felt smaller, air heavier. You think this is the Marco guy? Eno dead. Slowly. We're not sure who he is, but he's good. Real good. We've seen similar tactics in international fraud networks create fake identities using legitimate data. Pin the trail on someone else. Your brother may have been his first access point, so Dylan gave him everything. I muttered. My information, my ID scans, even my signature. Exactly. And now Marco's used cover Rivera dead. Me a photo, grainy surveillance, stills from a security camera at a Portland bank. A man in a baseball cap and dark jacket stood at a counter, depositing what looked like cashier's checks. He was turned slightly toward the camera, just enough to see his face. I froze. He looked familiar. Not identical, but close enough to make my skin crawl. Same build, same dark hair, same squared jaw. It's like I stopped, my voice barely a whisper. You, Rivera finished. Yeah, we noticed that too. I stared at the photo. My own face or something close to it, staring back, Rivera leaned forward. We're dealing with a professional identity mimic. Possibly someone who used deepfake tech to forge documents, even real-time facial overlays. Dylan wasn't lying when he said this. Went deeper than him. For the first times, première Betrayal fear the kind crowd refused to leave. If this man could pay off on video, et venir en personne, what's can you stop him? I asked. We're trying, Rivera said, but he's slippery. Et virili doivent être face chargo sur vector crypt de messaging. Disposable phones. We're very. He's smart enough to stay a step ahead. When I left the office, the city felt different, sharper somehow, less real. I walked aimlessly for hours, through Pike Place, down to the waterfront, the air heavy with the smell of salt and rain. My thoughts looped endlessly. Dylan, Marco, the forged account. The FBI's quiet suspicion that maybe I wasn't entirely innocent. That night, I did something stupid. I opened my laptop and searched Orion, Trade Limited. To my surprise, it wasn't a total ghost. The site was crude, a one-page layout with stock photos of container, ships and the slogan, * Global Commerce, Trusted. Conexion. * there was a contact email, but no address, no phone, no registration info. I hesitated for a long time before typing, greater than I think we have unfinished business. You know who I am. I didn't expect a reply, but at 2:17 a.m., one came, greater than. You're smarter than your brother. Let's talk. My pulse spiked. The sender's address was a string of random letters, no name, no domain I recognized. I typed back with shaking fingers. Greater than who are you? No answer. The next morning, Rivera called again. We traced activity on that fake account, he said. Someone tried to access it last night from an IP in Vancouver. I froze. Vancouver. I didn't. I know. But whoever it was, they knew your credentials. And they wanted you to see them. He paused. Did you contact anyone? I hesitated too long. Maybe, he sighed. I get it, but don't do that again. You're dealing with someone dangerous, not just a hacker. We think this guy's tied to organized laundering networks. He uses victims' identities as fronts, sometimes without them realizing it until it's too late. I felt sick. So what happens now? We'll keep monitoring the account. If he reaches out again, tell us. Immediately. I promised I would. I lied. That night, another message appeared. Greater than you want answers. Weird sur DNA enough pide. Benedres downtown Portland. I should have deleted it. I should have called Rivera. But instead, I stared at the screen until the clock hit midnight. My reflection ghosted over the glowing text. I didn't know if I was walking into a trap, a setup, or something worse. But part of me needed to know how far this went, how deep the lie ran, and who was really behind my brother's fall. By Saturday night, I was on I-5 heading south, the dashboard lights flickering faintly in the dark. The closer I got to Portland, the louder the questions became in my head. When I pulled into the empty parking lot of the address, an abandoned auto shop near the river, the only sound was the steady hum of rain. Then a voice from the shadows said, "You really shouldn't have come alone," and I knew, before he even stepped into the light, that I was staring at the man who had stolen my name. He stepped forward slowly, like he was in no hurry, letting the dim sodium streetlight catch his face, asterisk my asterisk face, or at least a version of it. The resemblance was uncanny. Same jawline, same sharp nose, same tired eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. Only the small things were off. The scar on the wrong side of his chin, a slightly different gait, and that unsettling calm in his smile. Jesus, I muttered. You really went all in. He smirked, tilting his head. You're surprised. I had to be convincing. Banks, lenders, they don't give away money to ghosts. My heart. A flicker of movement caught my eye, headlights turning into the far end of the lot. My breath hitched. Rivera, it had to be. Marco noticed it too. His smile didn't fade. You brought friends. I didn't, I said quickly, but he already knew I was lying. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. Then I'll save us both the trouble. He turned to walk away, calm, unhurried. I started to follow, but then he said over his shoulder, "Next time someone calls you a victim, remember, you're just a version of me who never took the risk." Before I could reply, the headlights flared brighter, and a voice shouted, "FBI." Hands where we can see them. Marco froze for a heartbeat, then bolted. Stop, I yelled, but he was already running. Cutting between rusted cars, sprinting into the dark beyond the chain-link fence. Rivera's team surged past me, flashlights slicing through the rain, boots slapping wet pavement. Did he say anything? Rivera barked as he ran by. Too much, I said breathlessly. The chase lasted less than a minute. I heard the echo of footsteps, a scuffle, then a sharp crack, not quite a gunshot, but close. When the agents came back, their faces were tight, unreadable. He's gone, one said. Dead? No, vanished, like he knew exactly where to disappear. Later, Rivera pulled me aside. We found something in the shop. Laptop, burner phones, a duffel bag of fake IDs, some of them, he hesitated. Some of them with your picture. I stared at him. How many? Dozens. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every reflection, window glass, bathroom mirror, even my phone screen, felt foreign, like maybe he was still there, just under the surface. A week later, a package arrived at my door. No, return address, postmarked from Vancouver. Inside was a single, flash drive. Against every instinct, I plugged it in. One file, a short video. It was me, sitting at a desk, smiling faintly at the camera. Only, it wasn't me. The fake version spoke with my voice, my expressions, my posture. Don't worry, he said. You'll never really lose yourself. I made sure of that. Then the screen went black. I sat frozen, staring at the reflection on the dark monitor, not sure anymore which version of me I was looking at. And for the first time, I realized maybe this wasn't the end of what Dylan had started. Maybe it was only the beginning. For 3 days after the video, I barely moved. I worked from a blank lazed, phone on silent to the point if I'm hum of the fridge. The ticking of the wall clock, the faint rasp of my own breath. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw his face again. My face, saying those words, "You'll never really lose yourself." By the 4th day, paranoia began to feel like reason. I caught myself glancing over my shoulder in grocery stores, studying security cameras at crosswalks, wondering if someone was filming me again, or worse, if someone else was wearing me somewhere else in the world. The FBI had confiscated my laptop the night after the video. Rivera came personally, his expression careful, but strained. He didn't say it outright, but I could tell he was worried, not just about Marco, but about me. About what I might do if this kept escalating. Identity crimes usually end with financial loss, he said quietly, placing the flash drive into an evidence bag. But this is psychological warfare. Whoever's behind this isn't just stealing your name. He's trying to dismantle your sense of self. I laughed bitterly. Mission accomplished. Rivera looked at me for a long time before saying, "You're not the first case we've seen like this. But you might be the only one where the impersonation was this sophisticated. We'll keep you under protection for a while, just until we can track the network. Protection." I repeated. "You mean surveillance?" He didn't deny it. That night, two plainclothes agents parked a black SUV across the street from my townhouse. They kept the lights off, but I could see the faint glow of a laptop inside. Watching, waiting. It should have made me feel safe. It didn't. Then the 5th, not an email. No sans denam. Just a single message. You shouldn't have involved them. They're not after me. They're after you. My blood went cold. I forwarded it to Rivera immediately. 10 minutes later, he called. "We saw it. Don't respond. Can you trace it?" "We're trying, but whoever it is, they're using a rotating proxy. We'll need time. Time's what I don't have." I muttered. He sighed. "We'll get him. I promise." But promises didn't stop. "What come next?" The next morning, my boss called from the firm. His voice was tight, formal. "Evan, we need to talk about some serious allegations." "What?" He hesitated. "Our system was breached last night. Client files were leaked, blueprints, contracts, personal data. The login used was yours." My throat went dry. "That's impossible. I haven't even been to the office this week. I'm sorry. But we've had to suspend your credentials until we sort this out." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. My pulse roared in my ears. This wasn't just theft anymore. It was erasure. Someone was systematically dismantling every part of me. That evening, Rivera came over in person. His jaw was tight, Shadowed. "The attack on your firm came from AVPN in Belarus, but the credentials match your company laptop exactly. Whoever's behind this had full access. How?" I asked, barely able to get the word out. He hesitated. "There's something else." The signature on the internal correspondence was biometric. I froze. "Biometric," he nodded grimly. "Fingerprint authentication. And facial recognition. That's not possible. That's impossible." Sighed. "That's what we thought, too. Until we saw this." He pulled out a tablet and pressed play. The footage showed me, or the other me, sitting at a workstation identical to my office desk. I watched him scan his face, press his thumb to the sensor, and access files I hadn't touched in weeks. The screen froze. Rivera looked at me. We cross-referenced metadata from the footage. It used no simple deepfake. This was generated through something far more advanced. "We think whoever did this has access to a full digital replica of your biometrics." I stared at the screen. What?" "A clone," Rivera said quietly. "A synthetic model of your digital identity, fingerprints, voice, face, even behavioral markers. It's been refined over time through all the data your brother and Marco collected." I felt dizzy. "So he can do anything?" "Be me anywhere." "Yes," Rivera said. And that's why we need to find him before he decides you're no longer useful. That night, I couldn't stay home. Every mirror felt hostile. Every sound felt staged. I packed a bag, grabbed my passport, and drove out toward the coast, not even sure where I was going. I just needed space. Alfueto. Astoria. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered, running away. The voice said, though calm, smooth, identical to my own. My hands went cold on the steering wheel. What do you want from me? Nothing you haven't already given, the voice replied. You made me possible. Bullshit. He chuckled. You uploaded everything once, remember? Backups, photos, tax forms, even a full facial scan for your firm's security system. You built the template yourself. I just used it. Why? I demanded. Why me? Because you were perfect, he said simply. Stable, predictable, invisible. No one questions. Evan, you were the ideal foundation. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Then he said, softly, I'm not your enemy. I'm your evolution. The line went dead. When I reached Astoria, the wind was howling off the Pacific, cold and sharp enough to sting. I parked near the edge of a cliff, the kind of spot where the horizon swallowed everything. My phone buzzed again. Another message. This one with an attachment. A video. It showed a hospital room, bright, sterile. On the bed was Dylan, my brother. Pale, thin, his wrists restrained by soft straps. Machines beeped rhythmically beside him. Then, off camera, my voice spoke, calm, warm. He'll be fine once we finish the extraction. The frame shifted slightly, and I saw him, Marco, or whatever he really was, wearing my face, my smile, my voice, looking down at Dylan like a surgeon observing his patient. Then the video ended. I screamed. Threw the phone against the dash until the screen cracked. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might split open. Rivera called 10 minutes later, panic in his voice. Evan, where are you? I barely managed to whisper. He's got Dylan. Stay where you are. He said, we'll find him. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about finding him anymore. It was about the already lost my name, my reflection. And for the first time, I realized, to stop him, I might have to become him. I didn't go back to Seattle. Instead, I checked into a rundown motel near the Columbia River, one of those places where no one asks questions. If you pay in cash. The walls were thin enough that I could hear every car that passed on the highway, every door slam, every cough from the room next door. It was perfect, anonymous. The first thing I did was disconnect. I threw my SIM card into the toilet, smashed my laptop's Wi-Fi card with a hotel ashtray, and duct-taped the front-facing camera on my phone. I sat in the dark for hours, the smell of damp carpet filling the room, replaying that hospital video, frame by frame in my mind. Dylan's limp body, the machines, the sound of my voice giving orders. He wasn't dead. That mattered more than anything else. If he was still alive, there was still something to fight for. But I knew now that the fight wasn't going to be through the FBI or the law. It was personal and digital. By dawn, I had a plan. I drove to an old contact, an IT guy named Raj I'd done freelance work with years ago. He'd once joked he could make ghosts disappear from databases. I never asked how literal that was. When he opened the door to his apartment, his eyes widened. Evan, holy hell, man, you look like you've been living in a bunker. Close enough, I said. I need your help. And you can't tell anyone I was here. He studied me a second, then nodded. Okay, come in. Raj's place was chaos, computer parts, tangled cords, humming, servers stacked against the wall. It smelled like dust and solder. He poured me coffee and waited. Premier toldim. Everything. The loan, Dylan, the forgery, the clone, the video. I expected disbelief, maybe laughter. Instead, he listened in total silence. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, staring at the floor. You're describing a full-stack identity construct, he said finally. I've read papers about it. Deep synthetics, behavioral, replication, biometric mapping. Boutique sans terre veuve? Never heard of anyone pulling it off in the wild. He has, I said, and he's using it to destroy me. Raj nodded slowly. Then we find him through his own network. For the next 48 hours, we didn't sleep. Raj set up a closed-circuit environment, running through encrypted logs, metadata fragments, and old communication traces from the fake Orion trade emails. Every so often, he muttered to himself, to clean, no residual footprint, whoever did this knew what they were scrubbing. Then, on the second night, he stopped typing. Got something, he said. On the screen was a list of login attempts to one of the shell accounts, each routed through a rotating proxy, except one. A blip, a single packet that slipped through without full masking. Origin. Point, a private medical facility outside Portland. I felt the blood drain from my face. The hospital. Roger's eyes met mine. You think Dylan's there? I know he is. He exhaled slowly. Then you gringo and Nate poof. That's how we ended up breaking into a hospital. The facility was small, tucked away behind industrial lots and warehouses. The sign reads Sadaview, Rehabilitation and Neurological Research Center. It didn't look like much. Plain white walls, minimal signage, the kind of place no one notices. We parked down the block, near the tree line. Raj handed me a small USB device. Plug this into any system you find. It'll mirror internal records to a hidden cloud directory. If your guy's in there, we'll have evidence. The plan was simple. Get in, get data, get out. No confrontation. But nothing that night went to plan. I got inside through a side door, where an orderly was taking out trash. I moved quietly down sterile halls lit by flickering fluorescence. The air smelled like antiseptic and something metallic. Blood, maybe. Most of the rooms were empty, but then I saw it. Ward C restricted access. A keypad guarded the door. I waited until a nurse walked by, then slipped through before it closed. Inside, the lights were dimmer, quieter. Machines beeped softly in the background. The first room I checked was empty. The second wasn't. There, lying motionless under a thin hospital blanket, was Dylan, tubes in his arms. His chest rose and fell in slow, shallow rhythm. I froze. My throat tightened. Dylan, his eyes flickered open, weak, glassy, but aware. He tried to speak, but only a rasp came out. I leaned closer. I'm here. You're safe now. He shook his head faintly. No, not safe. Who did this to you? He swallowed, eyes darting toward the door. Not him, it. Before I could ask what he meant, the lights flickered. The monitors blinked, once, twice, then shut off completely. The entire ward went dark except for the emergency exit signs glowing red. From the hallway, I heard footsteps, slow, steady. Raj, I whispered into my earpiece. Are you seeing this? Static. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Then a voice, she'll come, familiar. Always breaking rules. Evan, that's what I like about you. My blood froze. The door opened. There he was. Same face. Sami. Only this time, he wasn't smiling. His clothes were surgical white, gloved hands steady as stone. Step away from him, he said. I stood my ground. What are you doing to my brother? He tilted his head. Preserving him. You call this asterisk preservation, asterisk? He ignored the question, stepping closer until I could see the faint pulse in his neck, perfectly synced with mine. You shouldn't have come here. You're contaminating the process. What process? He smiled thinly. Identity integration. My heart raced. You're merging us. Not merging. Completing, he said softly. You were never whole. Juste fragment guilt. Obligation. Restreint. I'm the part that knows how to survive. He took another step. And now, I'll make sure only one of us remains. Before I could react, the overhead light snapped back on. Alarms blared through the hallway. Rivera's voice shouted from somewhere behind me, FBI, hands where we can see them. The clone, Marco, didn't flinch. He just smiled once more and whispered, too late. Then he pressed something on his wrist, a small black trigger. And every monitor in the room erupted in static. The last thing I saw before the flash flooded, everything white was Dylan's eyes opening wide in terror. Then darkness swallowed us all. I didn't go back to Seattle. Instead, I checked into a rundown motel near the Columbia River. One of those places where no one asks questions if you pay in cash. The walls were thin enough that I could hear every car that passed on the highway, every door slam, every cough from the room next door. It was perfect, anonymous. The first thing I did was disconnect. I threw my SIM card into the toilet, smashed my laptop's Wi-Fi card with a hotel ashtray, and duct-taped the front-facing camera on my phone. I sat in the dark for hours, the smell of damp carpet filling of anyone pulling it off in the wild. He has, I said, and he's using it to destroy me. Raj nodded slowly. Then we find him through his own network. For the next 48 hours, we didn't sleep. Raj set up a closed-circuit environment running through encrypted logs. Metadata, fragments, an old communication, traces from the fake Orion, trade emails. Every so often. He muttered to himself, to clean, no residual footprint, whoever did this knew what they were scrubbing. Then, on the second night, he stopped typing. Got something, he said. On the screen was a list of login attempts to one of the shell accounts, each routed through a rotating proxy, except one. A blip, a single packet that slipped through without full masking. The origin point, a private medical facility outside Portland. I felt the blood drain from my face. The hospital. Roger's eyes met mine. You think Dylan's there? I know he is. He exhaled slowly. Then you're going to need more than code. You'll need proof. That's how we ended up breaking into a hospital. The facility was small, tucked away behind industrial lots and warehouse. The thing had asterisk say to view rehabilitation and neurological research center. Asterisk it didn't look like much. Plain white walls, minimal signage, the kind of place no one notices. We parked down the block near the tree line. Raj handed me a small USB device. Plug this into any system you find. It'll mirror internal records to a hidden cloud directory. If your guy's in there, we'll have evidence. The plan was simple. Get in, get data, get out. No confrontation. But nothing that night went to plan. I got inside through a side door where an orderly was taking out trash. I moved quietly down sterile holes lit by flickering fluorescence. The air smelled like antiseptic and something metallic. Blood, maybe. Most of the rooms were empty, but then I saw it. Asterisk, asterisk, ward, C asterisk, asterisk, restricted. Access. A keypad guarded the door. I waited until a nurse walked by, then slipped through.